Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are in an absolute dire situation in the United Kingdom, in the world, especially Europe, especially NATO, especially the Ukrainians, because the Russian threat is marching forwards. In this live stream, ladies and gentlemen, I've literally just got off the phone with one of my contacts in Ukraine. I've got some inside information that you're just not going to get this information anywhere else, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to get what I'm going to tell you in this live stream. You're not going to get from the mainstream media. You're not going to get from any other news outlet, wherever you get your news sources from. Ladies and gentlemen, World War III, Putin is ready to fight and NATO is not ready. I'm not making that up. That is the didactic truth. Those things are statements that came out on the mainstream media today. Vladimir Putin, and I'll share the video with you guys. He came out in an interview today, Vladimir Putin, and he said, listen, you know, if Europe wants to fight, it was very clear. He said Europe, not NATO. If Europe wants to fight, we are ready to fight. And ladies and gentlemen, listen, guys, they are ready. The Russians are ready. We in Europe, we are not ready. We are not ready. Guys, look, I'm not changing my tune. I'm not jumping on this bandwagon like the zeitgeist. I've been saying this. Literally, go back and watch my other videos. I've been saying this for I've been saying that NATO can, without the United States, mind, so NATO light, i.e., Europe and led by the United Kingdom, without big old Uncle Sam, we can not defeat the Russians. On paper, yes, okay, on paper, we've got this budget and they've got that little budget, and we've got these highly trained men and they've got those poorly trained men. Okay, that's all well and good, general, sir, officer, politician. Who's been right all the time? I've been right. I know what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give you now some inside information from the front line in Ukraine that you guys are not going to get anywhere else. Before I do that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the channel, can you make sure you like, comment, subscribe, bell notification down below, because at some point very soon, all this is going to go kinetic. Now, I'm going to start with my opening monologue. Actually, guys, you know what? I'll give my opening monologue first, because that gives context to the information I've just got from the front line in Ukraine. And the tactics that the Russians are using now, guys, it's unbelievable. If the person who told me about these new tactics, if I didn't trust them, if I didn't trust them and I didn't know them for like 15 years, I'd have just said, yeah, that's not true. So if you guys want to tell me it's not true, that is totally fine. But you know, when it comes out in the mainstream media, you guys will know where you heard it first. So where are we today, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, diddly duck. Oh, diddly duck. World War III. Putin has pulled the pins, guys. He has. Putin's warning to the West. So as of today, December the 2nd of December 2025, Russian President Vladimir Putin has escalated his rhetoric during a visit to the frontline commanders, stating that Russia is prepared for direct conflict with Europe. Remember, guys, he's not talking about NATO. He's talking about Europe, because I believe behind the scenes, there's already a deal being done. We got to get a deal, guys. We got to get a deal. You know, I believe behind the scenes, there's already been a deal done with Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, that Donald Trump does not get involved in Ukraine. And look, guys, let's be clear. Let's be real. You know, you feeling me, fam? Yeah, you feeling me, fam? Let's be real for a moment. The United States have sent billions and billions and billions to Ukraine. The Ukrainian government allegedly have snaffled billions and billions and billions. So why should the US taxpayers still keep... You see where I'm going with this, guys? Why should they? And look, guys, I'm not going to think anything negative of anyone in the United States who's saying, look, I kind of don't want to fund that war anymore, because all I'm doing is buying Zelensky another ski resort or something. I will totally go with that, guys. And I'm somebody who is pro-Ukraine. I think, you know, we should give the Ukrainians the tools to defend themselves, but really defend themselves, not make money off them. So Vladimir Putin today has said he is prepared for direct conflict with Europe, while insisting Moscow seeks peace through negotiations. He declared, "If Europe wants to fight a war, we are ready," accusing the European nations of blocking the United States-led peace efforts under President Trump and prioritizing war over diplomacy. You know, and it's kind of ironic. It's a little bit ironic. Do you know what, guys? He's playing the global stage. So for everybody for everybody, right? So for everybody who's watching this and thinking, yeah, Vladimir Putin wants peace, he wants diplomacy. Okay, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine and now he wants diplomacy. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You can't throw raging one bombs and then expect the other person to come to some sort of negotiating table. Now, this comes amid Russian claims of capturing the key Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. Remember, guys, Pokrovsk is not a city. I'll jump onto the war map in a little bit and we'll see how close they are, like how close they are right now from closing that pincer up, which is a major logistics hub in Donetsk Oblast. So Oblast is like the, you get the city and then you get like the surrounding area. So like Greater London, Greater Manchester, what have you. Now, this has been, you know, that city or town, it's been under siege for nearly 2 years now. Russian forces announced full control of this on December the 1st, yesterday, with Chief of the General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, informing Putin during the visit. The footage showing Russian flags raised in the city center. And look, guys, you guys who've been watching this channel for a while, you guys have been following me. Can you guys remember when I told you guys maybe 2 weeks ago, I said, listen, guys, I've just heard from the front line. I've heard from somebody I trust that the town of Pokrovsk is already gone. The Ukrainian, it's done. It's just, you know, it's just ticking the boxes now. Turns out I was right again. And I gave you that information at least 2 weeks before it happened. So this happened on yesterday, December the 1st. Obviously, there's been footage of the Russian flags outside the, outside the government buildings. Obviously, the Ukrainian officials have contested this, stating their troops retaining positions in the northern sector. But, you know, guys, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before that whole area is closed down. So there are counterattacks in the south describing Moscow's announcements as propaganda to influence ongoing talks. The battle has devastated the city, once home to over 60,000 people, leaving it in ruins, decimated infrastructure and decimated population, symbolizing the war's attritional toll. These events underscore Russia's accelerated gains in eastern Ukraine, where Russian forces have advanced daily. Guys, look, remember how much I keep saying about this. Remember how I keep saying this, you know, when everybody's out on the mainstream and they're saying, yeah, the Russians are done, the Russians are over, oh, they're finished. Okay, absolutely fine. They're done, they're finished, they're over, they're about to collapse, but they're still taking ground every day. Yeah, they're going to collapse any day. Yeah, they've won. But they're going to collapse anyway. No, they're onto Poland. Yeah, but now they're going to collapse. Yep, they're through Poland. They're into Czech Republic. Yeah, but they're about to collapse, though. Okay, yeah, they're about to collapse. Yeah, they're at France. Yeah, they've walked through France. Yeah, but they're about to collapse. You know, they're not about to collapse, guys. And I'm someone who's pro-West. I'm Team GB, guys. Trust me, I'm Team GB. I'm as Team GB as you guys can. You guys can get. I'm giving you guys the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground is that push, that onslaught, the ability to keep pushing men forwards has resulted in the Russians capturing over 19% of Ukraine. As of today, 19% of Ukraine has gone. Diddly swan, the Russians have taken that. I want to give you guys some context now and some key events since February 2022. I think it's clear to say, guys, I think it's fair to say at this point, this conflict started in 2014. Some people can say it started in 2013, but you know, this conflict's in its almost in its 12th year. All right, this is not a new conflict. but I am going to start this story right now from 2022, February to April 2022. So February 2022, this is when Russia launched their multi-front assault from Belarus, from Crimea, and from the east. This was the big invasion. This was the big invasion. You've then got the eastern consolidation and annexations that happened May 2022. Russia then controlled Crimea, Donbass, the Crimea-Donbass corridor, but overextended those supply lines. You then get the stalemate and Ukrainian offensive in 2023. So this is when the Ukrainians were pushing back. And there were some gains by the Ukrainians. But ultimately, like I keep saying, the Russians just keep pushing, guys. The Russians just keep pushing. Now where we are, there's more advances. The Russians have gained more than 19% of Ukraine. Ukraine does still hold, the key territories. What would they be now? There would be maybe Kremenchuk. There's a big Xeon processing plant in Kremenchuk. Dnipro, the city of Dnipro, that's got a lot of heavy industry. Kiev, obviously, Kiev's a capital city. So Kiev, the Ukrainians still do hold on to a lot of that key infrastructure. This war has evolved from a blitzkrieg, where the Russians thought they were going to roll in there, to grinding positional battles, with the Russians leveraging their superior artillery, superior manpower numbers, might I say, bolstered by. Now, if you guys had have said this to me, I'd have called you a liar. I'd have called you a liar. Russian military manpower is bolstered by recruits from prisons. Yeah. They're pulling people out of prisons, guys. So how do you think about that? How do you think about that when like a country is dragging people out of prisons and sending them to go fight? Crazy times we're in, guys. Crazy times we're in. Now, this would be counter to Ukraine's agile warfare with drones, Western precision munitions, and by late 2025, and I got this from war.gov. So if you guys want to go and check that out, it's on war.gov. I put this in here because I've been saying this for a long time. The Russian daily gains average 10 to 20 square kilometers. It's like I've been saying that from day one, right? It's like I've been saying that from day one. And these are recent articles I'm going from now, guys, okay? But at an enormous cost. The casualty rate among the Russians are you ready, guys? Are you ready? Estimated to be 1,000 casualties per day. I'm going to come on to that in a second, guys. I will come on to that in a second, that casualty rate, because some of the information and the conversation I've just had, it's unbelievable. And if I didn't trust the guy for 15 years, I wouldn't be repeating this, because I'd have thought he was waffling. But anyway, so Ukraine's defenses rely heavily on, international aid. Economically, Russia has rerouted trade to China, India, but sanctions have taken its toll. But, when we talk about sanctions and when we talk about finances, it's a false metric, guys. It really is a false metric. So the next time you hear somebody who pretends to be educated, they've maybe got a suit and tie on and they're talking like, do we think Rachel Reeves is educated? Do you think she knows what she's doing? Do you think David Lammy knows what he's doing? So the next time some politician comes up and they say, the European Union is able to outspend Russia $12 to every $1 they spend. If you were a reporter or a journalist in that crowd, the logical question to ask would be, okay, but who's producing more stuff? Because if it costs you guys in Europe $30 for a hammer, because you guys $30 for a hammer, and it cost the Russians 50 cents for a hammer, who's producing more hammers? Obviously, you can trade that with, munitions, artillery, or whatever you want. So there's been a slow march, guys. There's been a slow march towards World War III. And I really don't think we've got long left before this crescendo happens. You can see all these things coming together now. Germany, Poland, France, I say the United Kingdom in February are all bolstering their militaries. They all understand now that we need more men, we need more manpower. And ultimately, that's what's going to win or lose this war, guys. It really is. So Putin's statement today, 2nd of December, fits the pattern of nuclear saber rattling and hybrid threats that have fueled fears of a broader war since 2022. Russia has veiled nuclear warnings, i.e. 2022, Putin threatened nuclear use if Ukraine's territorial integrity, including annexed areas, were challenged while conducting exercises simulating NATO strikes. This slow march, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just a metaphor. It is literally on the ground. When I talk about a slow march, I mean a slow march at 20 square kilometers per day. And that is the slow march that's happening right now in Ukraine. But as a metaphor, it captures the war's creep from isolated invasion to proxy hybrid conflict, now testing NATO's red lines. European leaders fear capitulation in Ukraine, could green light Russian moves on the Baltics or encourage China over Taiwan. You know, yet direct World War III still seems, you know, that there could be a potential off-ramp. I don't see the off-ramps, guys. If somebody can point to me those off-ramps, let me know. But Pokrov's fall, and look, guys, people can argue whether Pokrov's has fallen or not. If they don't declare it today, they might declare it tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, it's going to be the next day. The Ukrainians can't hold on to it. It's gone. There's nothing there, you know, it's pretty much gone. But the fall of Pokrov's, which is the last, so Pokrov's is the last fortress city in that region, and there is nothing now all the way up to the River Dnipro. You know, Putin's defiance signal no quick end to this war, guys. There's no quick end. This is we're going to risk another peak in the winter offensive, because remember, the Russians operate better in the winter. The Russians operate better in the cold. And all those NATO guys that are out there, all those, all the British guys that are out there, all the Americans, you know, well, I don't know. I don't know how many of these guys are out there, but there's a lot of people out there. Those guys are not ready for the cold temperatures. And when these cold temperatures drop, the Russians are going to be ready for those cold temperatures. Right, let me jump onto the chat, guys. Let me jump onto the chat because this is going absolutely crazy right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong in anything I'm saying. You know, I totally welcome it. Oh, Sherry Heppelstone has become a member. Thank you so much, Sherry, for becoming a member. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all the members. And you guys, listen, guys, you know what? So I got a notification come up on my YouTube app. It said, Real Raven 1, you've been identified of having the best looking team members. I don't know what that was, guys. Listen, it wasn't me. It was YouTube. It was the algorithm. It might be AI. I don't know. But yeah, thank you everybody that's become members. I really appreciate it. Okay, right. There's loads of comments on the chat, guys. I don't think I'm going to get through this. Right. I'm just going to give you the update that I got from Ukraine. So I've just been on the phone to a good friend of mine, somebody I consider as family. He was telling me how the Russians are operating on the front line. Now, the West, we don't have any answer to this because the Russians are just pushing. They're just pushing. We don't have the attritional ability to do this. Now, he was telling me that, and this is brutal, all right? This is non-confirmed. You're not going to find this in any social media. This is allegedly, all right? He was saying that they get the new conscripts. They get the new conscripts, And when the Russians are pushing forwards, the new conscripts have to carry all the heavy kit and equipment, and they just have to run as fast as they can. Ultimately, they all go down. They all go down ultimately. And then they get more conscripts with backpacks. Send them back again. And then all these guys are running. So now you're allegedly trading people's lives to move 100, 200 meters. And then what happens when that guy's fallen down with his backpack, and the other guy, the conscript who's been out there for a little bit longer, he just carries no kit and equipment, and he runs really quickly and picks up that kit and equipment. Guys, this is like Stalingrad. You guys have seen the movie, right? Stalingrad, where they're getting off the boat, and the guy goes, "One man has a rifle, one man has ammunition. When man with rifle fall, man with ammunition pick up, and he continue fight. Or if man with ammunition fall, man with rifle pick up ammunition, then he continue to fight." You know, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Right, I've got some videos to share with you guys as well. Hang on, let me just open these videos up, guys. I've got quite a few videos. Wow, I'm not going to get through all these. I've got one. Right, I think we've done that one from Reuters. We have, what have we got? We've got, what's this? Oh. But listen, remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you live in the United Kingdom, World War III and World War IV are going to be fought together. And honestly, I was thinking about this earlier on, and I think it's going to be down to the millennials to fight World War IV. I do. I think it's going to be down to the millennials to fight World War IV, because the Gen Zs are going to have to fight World War III. And the millennials, it's going to be up to the millennials to fight World War IV. And I think we owe that to Gen Z. I do, guys. I think the millennials owe that to Gen Z to go, to make sure that they've got a country to come back to. Am I right? Am I right, guys? Am I right in saying that? We owe it on Gen Z to make sure that there's a country for them to come back to, and they're not doing it for nothing. I think we do. I think we owe it to them. In fact, I know we owe it to them. Right, before we get on to this, because this is just totally out the... This is just total. Oh, yeah, and it's the end to NATO as well, guys. It's the end to NATO. Tomorrow is the end to NATO. So as of tomorrow, December the 3rd, NATO foreign ministers will gather in Brussels. However, America's seat will be empty. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is skipping the summit for the first time in over 20 years as the US Secretary of State refused to attend. Guys, it's the end to NATO. NATO's gone. NATO's gone. It's swilly fun. It's over. So anybody who's thinking these little articles and Article 5, it's not going to matter. And very soon, ladies and gentlemen, very soon, it's not going to matter what Keir Starmer did with a rent boy. It's not going to matter what David Lammy did with his shoelaces or his Velcro. Shabina Mahmood, it's not going to matter. It's just not going to matter. None of this is going to matter very soon. But it does look like it's the end to NATO. You guys can go check my videos for I don't know, forever. Maybe my first ever video where I was talking about this diversions now, where the United States are going to focus in the Middle East. I know they're not doing it yet, but they will do that soon. And the Europeans, led by the United Kingdom, are going to have to pull their big boy pants on and deal with this Russian threat. And that's the reality. And listen, guys, I know there's a lot of you in the chat who are saying, why should we bother? And I totally accept that. I do. I totally accept. I totally accept a lot of people will feel that way. I do. And I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. I'm biased. I've got friends. I've got people I consider family who live in Ukraine. So, my chips are on show. My chips are on show, guys. And I don't think that Putin would ever be able to get to the United Kingdom anyway, because he's got a lot of water to cross. So listen, guys, I'm just going to jump onto this real quick. Now, Zelensky put me off chicken Kievs forever. Okay, right. Just as a quick one, right? I've had the best, as per TripAdvisor, I've had the best chicken Kiev in Kiev. Ergo, that must be the best chicken Kiev in the world. And it's a restaurant called the Dnipro in Kiev. It's called the Dnipro restaurant in Kiev. Hang on a minute. Chris Cox is saying you're an idiot. Why? I don't know who he's talking about. I hope he's not talking about me, because I mean my hair is fantastic. Right, we're doing the chat. Sean, Mirror Exclusive Air Force nuclear specialist warns, stay away from 3 UK towns as Russia warns of World War III. I wonder what they are. Right, listen, guys, I'm going to jump onto the chat in a second, okay? But I just want to throw this out there because this is totally off topic, all right? I am going to come back onto what we're talking about, but I just want to remember that guy. Can you guys remember that guy, Chris Hargreaves, right? You know, the guy, the biker with all the tattoos on his face. Yeah, give me 50 quid each and where's he gone? Like, where's he gone? Can you guys remember him, right? Look at me, I'm a biker. I've got tattoos on my face. Listen, guys, I've met people like this. I've met people like this. I've met people like this, and I can see the bluster. Anyway, a video of him has emerged. Let me know, guys. I'm not making any speculations. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Oh, sorry, I've not shared the video. Hang on. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Sorry.
In a recent video clip, you referred to the people with the PODC as us when you were talking about it, and I know it was highlighted to you, men that have intrusive thoughts about children, even in the deepest, darkest recesses of my mind. If I was in an audience, I would never...
I'll bring the video up, because I don't know what you're talking about.
I would never, ever call myself us when I'm talking about nonsense. I would never label myself with them, and you did it subconsciously. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that you have that diagnosis. However, the public jumped on it, and a hell of a lot of people heard you say it, Chris, and jumped on it.
Well, I'd love to see the video.
Okay.
There's a way you trying to imply that, but let's have a look at the video.
POCD, paedophilic OCD disorder, is when people have unwanted thoughts about children. Underlined, unwanted. They have no intention. It drives them crazy. Now, this is usually because there's a lot of talk about PDFs in the media, and they have a fear that they could be one, even though they're not. And they won't go near their own children, and it drives us to do things.
In a recent...
So what do you think, guys? Did he refer to himself as one of those? And I'll be quite clear. I've never once, even never, it's sick. It's sick as far as I'm concerned. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I know it's totally off topic, guys, but let me know what you think. Do you feel, let me go to the end. Do you feel he's referring to himself as one of them? Let's watch him talk again.
Paedophilic OCD disorder is when people have unwanted thoughts about children. Underlined, unwanted. They have no intention. It drives them crazy. Now, this is usually because there's a lot of talk about PDFs in the media, and they have a fear that they could be one, even though they're not. And they won't go near their own children, and it drives us to do.
I mean, he definitely said us. I don't know. I've not been a fan of this guy. You know, I've not been a fan of that guy since day one. Look, guys, for those who've been following me for a while, the reason I've been relatively successful in my career is, and good at playing poker, is straight away I judge people. Straight away I will judge people. I'm not always right, but I'm right a lot more than I'm wrong. To the context that I've been here, not anymore because I'm doing YouTube videos with you fine people. I've been in some really high profile meetings and business negotiations. And people will just text me. I'll be sat at the table. They'll text me, Sean, do you trust him? And I'll be like, yes or no. And if I say yes, the deal will go ahead. If I say no, the guys I'm sat with, they trust me. Everything's about trust, guys. So I don't trust this guy. I don't trust him, not at all. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me jump onto this. Let me jump onto the chat, ladies and gentlemen, because we have a World War III warning. Putin is ready to fight. NATO is not ready. And when I talk about NATO, I mean NATO minus the United States, guys. NATO minus the United States. Exactly. There is no way conscription can happen or war if no one accepts. I believe it's all a play. Okay, right. Let's re-examine. Let's re-examine this. Let's re-examine this. Let's re-examine this, guys. Okay, because I'm saying, as someone who's worked in this industry, there is a lot of ways to get people in the military. Like, first of all, you would hang on a minute. Okay, so my friend sent me an update. He's making his way through the jungle at the moment. He sent me some pictures. Hang on, let me ask if I can share them. Sorry, he sent me some pictures, and it's absolutely beautiful where he is in Venezuela. I just asked him there if I can share them. I'd rather get boomed before I go to war countryside. I'd rather get boomed before I go to war countryside. I don't know what that means. Joshua is saying, just give out free McDonald's who joined the army. That's one way. Can you guys remember when we was having to have the injections in 2020? Sorry, it was COVID-19, but it was 2020. Can you guys remember when we had to have the injections and they were going into schools and giving people free burgers? Can you guys remember that? Right, I'm just going to jump up and get some comments. Stephen is saying it's kicking off in Belfast City Hall protest now. Yeah, there's been a revival of Northern Irish militant groups. Okay, so Simone Lee, I think. Simone Lee is saying, what can they do if people refuse the conscription? They can't make people go if they don't want to, can they? Okay, so first of all, as part of the ECHR, no, they can't. They can't conscript you if you're part of the ECHR. Absolutely not. So when everybody wants to get rid of the ECHR to get rid of the migrants, yeah, you're also opening the door to conscription. However, Rishi Sunak was asked this question when, we already know the answer, guys. So Rishi Sunak was asked this question when they were talking about, remember, guys, it won't be called conscription. It won't be called conscription. It will be called mandatory military service, national service, help out at a shootout or something. That's what it's going to be called. Help out at a shootout. That's what it's going to be called. Help out to shootout. Whatever it's called, they won't use the word conscription because that scares a lot of people off. They will call it something else. Now, Rishi Sunak's already answered this question. He was asked something similar in a debate, and he said, we would look at what the Ukrainians are doing, cancelling people's driver's license, refusing restricting their access to banking. So, literally turning people's human rights off, right? And when we get digital IDs, it's going to be a lot easier to recruit people. That's how the Russians do it. So the Russians, they get recruited by text message. They say, right, I don't know how it works exactly, but I know the Russians have got a form of digital ID. So the Russians will get a text or a notification on their digital ID, and it'll be like, Yuri Raven, Shonik Raven, Darka Nishna Chuvak. You are now a member of the armed forces of Russia. Report to your local careers office or whatever within 24 hours, or we'll turn your digital ID off. I best go then. Can you imagine the anxiety with that? Can you imagine the masses of anxiety, guys? Scared to look at your phone. I still want to know who this guy. I still want to know who this guy was who called me. I think some guy called me an idiot and he just vanished. I'd like to know more context to that. I'd like to have some context to that. Right, let me follow on. Certainly anywhere near the US and NATO facilities, he said. Otherwise, key military centres. South Yorkshire's not a military centre. Telford, Plymouth, South Yorkshire, and the southwest of England. Yeah, he's bluffing there, guys. He's absolutely bluffing. Right? Listen, guys. Look, guys. I'm not the who gave this. Hang on. Okay, Air Force nuclear specialist. Okay, I'm not an Air Force nuclear specialist, but I know a lot more than he does. All right. Just like, okay. First of all, let's be clear, guys. Let me ease everyone's anxieties. All right, let me ease everyone's anxieties. Right now, the United Kingdom has got it's not got a 0 chance of getting nukes, but it's got a very low chance of being hit by any ballistic munitions, any nuclear weapons. All right. However, if the very worst did happen, it makes no sense to, what you would do is you want to take out anything that can strike the Russians back or whoever. So you take out any ports, runways, nuclear facilities, missile stuff. So military towns, ITC Catterick, I think that it may have actually meant North Yorkshire there. These places are not relevant. They're not relevant in the grand scheme of things. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the infantry. Nobody cares on a government level when you're talking about nuclear weapons. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how special your special forces are. And if there's any Blades watching, I know you guys watch me. I know there may be some Blades watching, all right? Or some of you little froggies, some of you froggies, the B team. Any B team watching? I don't know if there's any B team watching. With any of the blokes watching, you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about, all right? The British infantry, it's so small, like at 19,000. Yes, 19,000. So 19,000 is the number of active infanteers we have in the British Army. Yes, the army is like, 70,000 strong or whatever. A lot of those guys are logistics, technicians, support staff, artillery. Our actual infantry, the ones that close with and kill the enemy, are 19,000. So I will be quite clear, guys, all right? Anyone who lives near a big port, a docks, anywhere that's got, a relatively long runway, certainly, what they're called, Leighton. Is it Leighton Heath? Is it Leighton Heath? The US Air bases, basically, they're in the United Kingdom. There's going to be no sort. Oh, hang on, he just sent me a load of stuff I can share. That's nice of him. Mate. Right, let me try and get these. Right, I'll show you the Venezuela snaps in a bit, but they are absolutely beautiful, guys. So it's just beautiful. Wow. That's phenomenal. Right, let me jump down. Brits, London, Birmingham, and Manchester may not be the target if World War III breaks out. Guys, listen, stop, all right? Right, stop. Look at the towns and the cities, all right? Nobody, if anything, dropping a nuclear weapon on London, Birmingham, and Manchester. I mean, where do we sign up, guys? Where do we sign up? Where do we sign up? I don't, it's just not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. The real threat, and I've always said this, guys, the real threat is from stabby, stabby, rammy, rammy. No, it's not the big cities. It's it's the major ports, it's the airports, and it's it's anywhere that has missile storage, and I don't know where they are. Googly is saying no one knows what will be targeted. Russia only knows where they will hit. It's classified. I agree. Donna is saying can't stop the mainstream media. It's pushing this information. You need to look deeper into what they are targeting if it happens. Guys, look, they're going to target these things with asymmetric warfare, and it's already happening. It's already happening. It's already happening. Right, guys, I've got so much to get through. Guys. I'm more than halfway through. Right, well, I'm just going to run through a few things now, all right, guys, that are relevant to this live stream. So Vladimir Putin, he's upped the ante. The town, I'll share with you guys Pokrovs right now. I said I was going to do this. Where are we? Oh, I can't find it. Oh, there we are. So for those guys who've been watching, this live stream, this is the warm up I use. Anytime I want to express something about Ukraine, I always come to this warm up. It's kept relatively well up to date. You guys can see this was a situation on the ground as of the 1st of the 12th. So it's only like 24 hours delay or whatever. Now, what we're talking about here is this. Where's it gone? There we are. This town of Pokrovs here. Now, I don't know if you guys were on when I've done this before, but we measured the two tips of the disputed areas. All right. So basically, the last time I think I spoke to you guys, the Russians had come up to this road. Now they've gone over the road and they're making it to this northern east to west road. Now, what we did is we measured it, and I remember it was 1,600 kilometers. Or no, it was less actually, 1,500 kilometers between the tip here, and I think it was the tip here. Now, the Russians have surged forwards, and there's this little disputed area. So I'm just going to go where I think the shortest area is, there to there, which we're looking at 963 meters. So all the Russians need to do now, guys, is close up 963 meters. So the Russians are this side, 963 meters away. They are this side. Now, tell me, guys, do you think that town there of Pokrovs has already fallen? I do. I think it's already gone. Doesn't matter what we're hearing on the mainstream. I know the guys who do this map. They're independent. They don't listen to the. They are independent. They're really good. I know them. Stanislav, great guy. Anyway, so I can remember as well being on the live streams with you guys, and I don't know. Listen, guys, if you're joining for the first time, I've been following this conflict quite well since it started. I remember doing live streams talking about Volodya and saying, yep, the Russians are coming in from the north, they're coming in from the south, they're closing the pincer up, and then Volodya is gone. I also remember this town here, Valyeka Novosilka. Valyeka Novosilka, they did the same. They came from the south, they came from the north, pincer movement closed it up, and look how far further forwards they've got. Look how far further. Let's look at what's the distance from Volodya to there. So 55 kilometers. That's a long way, guys, in warfare. That's a long way. Now, just real quick, guys, because I need to mention this because I know there's people here who've maybe watching for the first time. There's nothing now. There's literally nothing but open farmland between the Russians and the River Dnipro. Nothing for 138 kilometers, we'll call it 140 kilometers or whatever. There's nothing for 140 kilometers now between the Russian, the city of Pokrovs, that's a town that's soon to be in Russian hands, and the River Dnipro. Nothing. Absolutely nothing there, guys. It's just beautiful farmland as well. You know, it's just farmland. It's just absolute farmland. So as soon as that location falls, I'm suspecting Putin is going to make a dash to Dnipro. I'm not convinced if he will be able to make it over the River Dnipro into the city of Dnipro, but he will certainly be able to make a lot of ground. Anyway, right, let's jump on some. What have we got? We've done that. Okay, we've got the whole. Right, we've got the whole Putin speech here. We've got the whole Putin speech. How do I do this? How do I do the Putin speech? Right. I'll share it with you. I'll share this with you guys. I'll share this with you.
Сами себя вывели на вооружениях тезис нанесения России стратегического поражения и живут до сих пор, судя по всему, в этих.
So obviously, I'm realizing that you guys don't speak Russian and the subtitles are non-existent. So what I will say is, what he's saying in this speech basically is, if the Europeans want a war, we're ready for a war, and they are not. And guys, look, as much as I'm critical of Putin, he's absolutely right. The Russians have been fighting this war in Ukraine for a long time. They have been taking ground. They've been making ground. They've been pushing forwards. Well, what have the Europeans been doing? You know, trying not to get stabbed at Christmas markets. You know, that's what the Europeans have been doing. And all this is part of a greater, it's part of a greater, greater asymmetric grey warfare. What else have we got? Yeah, there's a lot of people talk. Yeah, the big thing though, guys, the big news is that the Americans, Marco Rubio, he's not going to this NATO meeting. That is a massive signaling that the Americans are about to pull out of NATO. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Vladimir Putin is quoting in Russian on Russian TV. If Europe starts a war with Russia, there will soon be no one left to negotiate with. He's obviously, with that in context, he's saying the Russians are going to destroy NATO, destroy whoever is put in front of them. And although I don't think that's going to be as easy as he thinks, I don't think people understand how the Russian war machine works. I don't think people understand, least of all admirals, generals, and David Lammy. I mean, they have no idea, because the way politics works, guys, okay, the way politics works, Shmishnahu. Running Bear is that is a fantastic thumbnail. Running Bear is that looks like the African savannah. I love Africa, guys. If anybody's ever been to Africa, I did some trekking in it's when I was in the military, just outside Kenya. Absolutely beautiful. You can't see Mount Kenya. You can only see the top of Mount Kenya at first light, and it's absolutely beautiful, guys. Like African savannah, sunrise, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And you see this huge Mount Kenya. It's beautiful. Anyway, Running Bear is saying exactly, I'm more worried about the Islamic invasion. Yeah, so we're gonna have two wars. We're gonna have 2 wars, guys. We're gonna have 2 wars fought simultaneously. Okay, we're going to have World War III, which is going to be the international war. It is, guys. And our Gen Z, I love you guys, Gen Z. I love you guys, Gen Z. Gen Z, you guys are going to go and have to fight the World War III. And us millennials, yeah, we're millennials, guys, who have failed. Us millennials who have failed, we're going to have to fight World War IV. That's the reality, guys. That is the reality. World War IV is going to be fought domestically. World War III is going to be the international war. And, I do think that World War IV has already started. Let me jump up and get some comments. The Watchman is saying cabbage as far as the eye can see. I don't cabbage as far as the eye can see. I don't know. Cabbage. I like cabbage as well. Yeah, I like cabbage. It's easy stopping Americans fighting. Apparently, before they go to war, they always have lobster. No, they don't. Okay, so they don't. So I saw that video as well. It was total clickbait. All right, every Friday on US bases while they're deployed, they get steak and lobster, and they get cans of Red Bull as well. So we used to call it Freaky Caffeine Friday. So you would go to an American, DFAC dining facility. You go to American DFAC, on a Friday, and you get these big, juicy ribeyes, lobster. I never really liked the lobster, but it's fantastic, guys. It's fantastic. It's not a precursor to war. It's not a precursor to war at all, guys. It's literally a Friday when you're deployed. Googly is saying Putin-US meeting continues as talks past the 3-hour mark. It's not going to matter, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. Whatever the United States and Russia agree, the Europeans and the Ukrainians are not. And look, guys, I will keep caveating this, and I will keep saying this. I totally understand the vast amounts of corruption that are in Ukraine. I do. Vast amounts of corruption. Like phenomenal amounts of corruption. James Brooke is saying, so the Russians speak the same language and they use the same equipment. NATO speak multiple languages and their equipment is different and not interchangeable. It would be chaos. It would be absolute chaos, And you know what? I didn't even mention that. You're right, So can you imagine, right? Can you imagine like a British, a British section commander trying to tell a Norwegian section commander where to put his guys? It's not going to work, is it? It's not going to work. Can you imagine German mechanics going out to repair Swedish vehicles? Not going to happen. They ain't got take the Germans aside. They're pretty efficient. They could do that. But you guys know what I'm getting on it, right? You got, there's all this kit equipment's not interchangeable, different ammunition. Okay, so everybody's on 5.56, but the British ammunition is more powerful than, do you know what? I don't actually know if it's more powerful than the NATO ammunition. I know it's more powerful than American, which is NATO. I would have to get back to you on that. But, there's a lot of interchangeable parts that are just not interchangeable. There's no interchangeability. Stephen is saying, my mate is in the Honourable Artillery Company. Hacked. I don't know what that is. He said, lots going on. He thinks it's pointing to deployment. It absolutely is. It absolutely is pointing to a deployment, guys. Royal Marines numbers don't count as army. Yeah, because they're useless. They shouldn't count as anything other than they shouldn't count, the Royal Marine numbers shouldn't count as anything other than methane creators. So I think if there was a unit in the British military and their task was to turn rations into shit, the Royal Marines would be perfect for that. They would. The Royal Marines would be perfect with that. Hatchy Hatch. Hello, Hatchy Hatch. Hatchy, sorry. It appears that everything at every level is attacking the UK at the moment. In-house, outhouse. Oh my God, we as the people. Yeah. Do you know what, guys? I've not even come on to the fact that today David Lammy has totally cancelled. He said, yeah, all that rule of law and stuff, of fair trial. No man shall have his possessions taken without a fair trial. Yeah, we're not bothering with fair trials anymore. We're not going to bother with fair trials anymore in the United Kingdom. Right. Can I tell you a story? It's too distasteful. Slim Yin is saying, I heard a story about an enemy soldier spotting an American eating an ice cream on the front line. And at that moment, they knew they were fucked as they were starving. I know a lot of Americans who like eating ice cream. Donna Prepper is saying the UK government has again delayed the decision over whether to approve the Chinese super embassy in London until January. So didn't David Cameron, what's his name? Didn't Keir Starmer come out the other day and say, and like, I think it was even today, he came out today and said that China is a threat to the United Kingdom, but we're still letting them build this this super embassy. Fiona Flynn is saying, hey now, my cousin is a Royal Marine. Okay, well, one day you can join the real army. And listen, if you want to join the Royal Marines and have an easy time, that's fine. That's fine. But if that's absolutely fine. I know a lot of people have these back-end jobs that don't really do anything. They're kind of like the accountants, like Rachel from accounts. They don't really do anything. The Loop is saying, I can't understand the logic of it just being Russian. It's in BRICS, 10 countries against 32. Okay, right. Okay, so it's not as simple as that. For example, you've got India. So you've got India, who is a member of BRICS, but they are progressively siding with the West. You've got countries like Hungary, you've got, it's not as simple as that. It's really not as simple as that. And when you have all these, when you have all these different countries with different political goals, different political scheming, it makes things very difficult to organize. Sean, when do you think Europe and Russia would engage in warfare, if indeed they do? I struggle to put, I don't want to put timings on these things anymore, guys. Okay, so what's happening in Ukraine right now? I'll tell you what's happening in Ukraine right now. They're trying to make Zelensky resign. Okay, stop. Let's rewind. Okay, so they're trying to put in place a Speaker of the House. So so on paper, the Ukrainian political system is, you could argue it's like the United States, where they have a president who, it's not like the United States at all. You know what? Let's not worry about that. In Ukraine right now, in the Ukrainian government, they're trying to replace the Speaker of the House. Now, the Speaker of the House would be the person that takes over from Zelensky if Zelensky resigned. So what they're trying to do right now in Ukraine, they're trying to change the Speaker of the House to someone that they voted for and then make Zelensky resign. Potentially for entertainment purposes, potentially, allegedly, by this money going missing scandal that I like to call theft. Now, if that happens, the Speaker of the House, the new Speaker of the House, would be more prone to sign whatever piece of paper that Vladimir Putin offers them. Now, if that does happen, that is instantly a flashlight for boots on the ground, guys. It really is. That is an absolute flashlight for boots on the ground. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that it's going to be boots on the ground. Everybody knows that it's going to be, it's going to be carnage, chaos, and calamity. Because as soon as those boots are on the ground, like, do you think that the Russians care? Do you think that the Russians care if they take out 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 Brits? No, of course not. You guys just heard me talk about how they treat their own conscripts, right? So Do you think they're going to bother, like, with a few missiles? Yes, send missile over to training camp. We destroy as many British as we can. Yes, look at them run. They come to Ukraine to destroy Russia. Now they are destroyed themselves. Yes, we destroy capitalist pig. Yes, Father Lenin, we show capitalist pig true strength of socialist Russia. You know, we have some crazy shit happening right now, guys. There's no denying it. There's some crazy shit happening. We've got about 100 indirect fire weapon systems, including MLR. So when I told my friend in Ukraine, we were talking about the numbers of soldiers, and I was saying, mate, this is ridiculous. He said, yeah, I know, it's just going to get worse. And one of the things I said to him was, I said, do you know how many, in fact, I need to send him that link, actually. I said, do you know how many active soldiers we have in the United Kingdom? He said, no. I said, we have 19,000. He just started laughing. He said, what is this going to do? I said, I know, he's going to do fuck all. You know, like 19,000 soldiers is what the Ukrainians recruit in a month. And by recruit, I mean kidnap. Googly is saying senators vow to push to prohibit U.S. military action in Venezuela if Trump pursues strikes against the country. Unfortunately, Donald Trump is in charge, and nobody, and you know, Donald Trump's in charge, guys. You know. Running Bear, this is the internet, and I'm in tyrannical UK. Only a fool would talk online. And yes, I've legally used a rifle. What's going on here? What's Running Bear? What's Running Bear saying? Is Running Bear saying we all need to get guns or something? We don't have guns in the UK, guys. What's Running Bear saying? Oh, have y'all ever owned arms? I've got 2 guns, guys. I've got 2 tickets for the gun show. I've got Coma and Death. Coma and Death, guys. 2 tickets to the gun show. Have y'all ever owned firearms when they're banned? Okay, so let me just be clear, guys, okay? Firearms are not actually banned in the United Kingdom. They're just very, 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 like, ridiculously heavily regulated, and it makes it impossible. You know, so just for context, I mean, I'm not in date anymore, but I've been a tactical firearms instructor like most of my adult life, in the military, going overseas, teaching people how to use firearms. I think that guns are fantastic. I think that we should be able to have legally, you know, I think that people should be able to arm themselves in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, guys, we're not allowed. And where I say to people, we need something like a Second Amendment in the United Kingdom, and people are like, oh, sure, we get. Okay, I'm not calling for guns in the United Kingdom. I know that may seem counter to what I've just said, but like, I'm looking at the United Kingdom holistically now. Like, for me, you know, I'm very safe with one of those things in my hand. You know, I'm very safe with one of those things in my hand, or maybe one in each hand, dual wielding, because you've got to dual wield, especially if it's a Saturday. Where was I going with this? Yeah. So while I personally, like, I feel very comfortable around firearms, I know that a lot of people do not. And I don't think introducing more lenient gun laws into the United Kingdom right now would be a positive thing. I think what we need to do in the United Kingdom is we need to have some sort of like a Second Amendment type bill that gives the people of the country the legal framework just to defend themselves. Because, like, you know, we don't have that. You know, we don't have that. We don't have any framework to protect ourselves, guys. You know. I shared with you guys a video a while back of some guy in Canada saying, "Hey everyone, we know if you get your house invaded, we'd like you not to take the matters into your own hand. Just phone the police." You know, that's what they were saying in Canada, and I would say it would be worse in the United Kingdom. In fact, I would speculate that the government's advice if you got, if robbers burst into your house and they were doing bad things to you, would be to send an email. Send an email, and they'll send an officer out when they can. And then it scripts over this video to this guy in Florida. He's like the police chief in Florida or something, and he's saying, "I'm the police chief of Florida. If any of you criminals think about doing a home invasion, I like my Floridans to carry guns, and I encourage everybody to buy guns. And if you want to steal that for Florida and you run into their house, I give them my permission to blow you out their front door." I'm like, yeah, I want to live in Florida. And you've got to understand that when people have the right to protect themselves, they protect themselves. And when people have the right to protect themselves, you don't get little criminals coming up trying to rob you. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Gerald of Riviera is saying Rupert Lowe was proposing this in Restore. I think. Do you know what? An interesting fact about Rupert Lowe. So Rupert Lowe on his own, just Rupert Lowe on his own, is polling 3 points higher than the Conservative Party. I saw a statistic. Somebody's going to have to fact check this for me, guys. I saw a statistic, and they did the polls, and Rupert Lowe himself, not his party, Restore Britain or whatever it's called, just Rupert Lowe on his own is polling higher than the Conservative Party. Right, let me jump up. Rachel Reeves slammed as extra benefits dished out to Oh, guys. Why wouldn't you give more money to extra wives and stuff? Why wouldn't you give more money to people? Guys, listen, I was watching, what's her name? She's on GB News. I can't remember who she is. She's got black, I don't know. She's one of the GB News girls. And they were saying that if you don't work and you've got 3 kids, if you work and you've got 3 kids, you have to earn 71 grand a year to have the same lifestyle or the same money going into your bank relatively as somebody that doesn't work. How is that a thing, guys? How is that a thing? How is it a thing now where you have to be a high earner? Benefits is high money, guys. It's high money. Um, 2022 general election for Great Yarmouth constituency, Rupert Lowe received a higher vote share, 35%, than the Conservative candidate. Yeah, so what I was saying is, Rupert Lowe on his own is bigger than the whole of the Conservative Party. Band again is saying, as soon as the UK and Russia kicks off, they will be forcing guns into our hands. Look at Poland gun laws. Yeah, I don't think that will happen, guys. I would say that there's a big difference between Poland, Ukraine, and Russia because there's, you can drive that distance. You can't drive from France to the United Kingdom. You have to get on a ferry at Calais, get in Dover, So I don't think that would be the case. Band again is saying Poland is now Poland now school children have gun training. Guys, I think everybody should have gun training. That's me. I think everybody should understand how to use these things. And the Russians do this as well, guys. You have to do this at school in the Russian, in Russia. And once you've done that at school, they're not just training you how to use a weapon; they're training you to be a conscript. They're training you to be a conscript. Can we all hit the thumbs up and show Raven some love, guys? Thank you so much for showing some love. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate the love, guys. I love some love. Right, listen, guys, I am going to close this down. Oh, you could. Martin Quinn is saying you could always go on a little black boat You could always go on a little boat. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. If the Russians are invaded, they're going to go on little black boats. Jewish groups announced solidarity gathering near synagogue in a targeted protest. Right, listen, guys, I am going to close this down. Yes, I am. We're not going to be talking about guns. We're not going to be talking about guns. We're going to be talking about the World War III warning. Yes, sir, World War III warning. Vladimir Putin has upped the ante. He's come out and he said basically in Russian, in Russian, he said, I don't even know how to say it in Russian, but he said, if the Europeans or the EU want to fight, we are ready. And guys, listen, I'm going to agree with him. The Russians have been doing this now for a while, so it's all well and good, I'll give you ask you a question. I'm going to ask you guys a question. All right. You've got a guy in the workplace. All right. And he's making, what's he making? He's making chisels. He's making hammers. Yeah, we like hammers today. So you've got a guy in the workplace. All right. And he's making hammers. All right. He's been making the same hammer for 10 years. All right. 10 years he's been making that hammer, all right? Another guy walks in the same workplace. He's got all the degrees in engineering, in, metallurgy, in woodsmithing. He's got all the degrees. Who's going to make those hammers quicker? Yeah, it's the guy who's been doing it the longest. So that's what you've got to consider when you talk about a direct conflict with Russia and NATO. Well, by Russia and NATO, I mean Russia and NATO light, i.e. without the United States, because that's what's happening, guys. That's what's happening. I've already given you guys my prediction for the big military movement in the United Kingdom in February 2026. But guys, listen, I will leave you with this. NATO is not ready, guys. NATO is not ready. Read the information. Oh, yeah. So he was shouting Alan Snackbar, wasn't he? So the National Guard shooting suspect. The National Guard shooting suspect, he was shouting the thing, the thing that people shout, it sounds like Alan Snackbar. It's just crazy, guys. It just is crazy that we let these people in our country and then they go stabby, stabby, rammy, rammy, or in the case of the United States, shoot it, shoot it. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now because you guys keep keeping me on, don't you? I've just got Googly's comment right. Did I not just get Googly's comment? I'm pretty sure I did Googly's comment. Yeah, I did. Pretty sure I did. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have been fantastic. Like I said right at the beginning of this live stream, guys, I got a notification through from YouTube, and they said to me, they said, Sean, I don't know what it is. I've never had one of these notifications before. I said, Sean, your members list, the people who are members to your channel, they're the best looking members that we've seen on any YouTube channel. So that's a big pat on the back for you guys. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10. Unless something breaking happens, guys, I'll get straight on it. I'll bid you all good evening.